I rewatched the race again yesterday. I mean, I'm quite familiar with it anyway, but I watched it again. And two things jumped out to me, which I'm not sure I've noticed in the past. One was that David Coleman seemed quite doubtful the whole way through when he was commentating. He was pretty doubtful. You could tell he was dubious about your chances. Yeah. And also, I thought it was amazing. They tried to stop you doing a lap of honour.
Well, they tried to stop us doing the second lap of honour because I think we got one in and they wanted to stop us doing another one. But we were the very last event. And straight after us was the medal ceremony and then the closing ceremony. So I guess they wanted to try and keep onto some kind of schedule. But I remember
it's funny, Jason, because it's interesting what you notice when you see that race. Because what Derek and myself and Kriss noticed is that John only ran about 380
That was right out of my mouth. Big trouble there. Yeah, the biggest thing is Regis only ran 380 meters.
Yeah, I actually ran 3 bends just so you know to get the baton to him.
But to be perfectly honest, chaps, if it wasn't for me, you guys wouldn't have been where you guys ended up. So that's all I need to say on that.
You're right. We would have been about a second and a half quicker, but that's nothing to no.
Well, if we look at the times, if my memory serves me correct, I think Akabusi ran 45 point.
Leave it.
45.3, Akabusi?
Leave it. I don't know if it was that slow.
I think it was. Was
it 45.3?
It was pretty. It was over 45 seconds, but you only had to do enough to get in front of Pettigrew.
Yeah, I must have had time at the buffet then. No wonder I was large when you saw me last time. I said, been at the buffet. But no, I mean, the big point that you made there, Jason, is I think that David Coleman really epitomised what the general public and even what our management were thinking when we came up with the idea well, it's not controversial now, but to change the way we do relay running, and
did you guys feel like underdogs though, or did you, or were you really very confident?
Confident.
We were confident.
I think for us, the moment you make a decision and you all collectively own that decision, and then you think about it and you work it out. Look, we never were. Things had to go. It was never a guarantee, that's for sure. But we definitely had a confidence, didn't we? I mean, we definitely, we sat down, we worked it out, and laughing and joking aside, all 4 of us individually knew exactly what we had to do, and exactly. I mean, we haven't even got time to go into the details, but there are details within it that, unless you are a 400-meter runner and a relay runner, you would understand. Yeah. And I can honestly say that every single one of us did the exact job we were asked to do, and we didn't. We could have all not done that. We could have all made mistakes, and we've all run in relay teams where it takes one person to make a slight mistake and it isn't going to happen. And we knew our job, and we were confident in ourselves, and we were confident in each other. I think that was obvious.
That was the point I was just about to make. We all had confidence in ourselves, and we were all confident people. We still are. We all knew what we were capable of doing. But I think one of the things that stuck out for me more in that relay race, and like Roger said, we've won in loads of races and that, is the confidence I had in the other 3 guys, even though they were running out of character, if that makes sense. I mean, John had run a few 4x4s. He was still relatively new to the 4x4 scene. 1990 was pretty much your first one, John. At that level, at European level, and he came straight in, bam, drops a 43 point something to help win the European Championship. And to come in then at the world level a couple of years later and just fit straight in. You'd just come off the back of running a 4x1 that same day, if I remember rightly. The conversation that we had, and Kriss really starting the conversation by saying, listen guys, I'm in the shape of my life, put me on that 4th leg. It wasn't a case of, I don't know, Kriss. It was, okay, so where's everybody else going? And there was no real, even though we did talk about it, there was no doubt in my mind, certainly, that Kriss wasn't going to do what he said he can do. And I think in any other scenario, there's 2 conversations we had. Number one, are you sure, Kriss? Which kind of shows that everybody else is not so sure. And then the second conversation is, right, where's everybody else going? For us, it was, okay, right, where's the rest of us going? And that was almost taken from my point of view, read that Kriss will do what he said he was do as long as we put him in position that he needed to be in. And the question for me wasn't, can Kriss do it? The question for me was, how are we going to get him into that position? And that's when the other three positions came about. And then it almost took, I don't know about you guys, but it almost took pressure off of me, because in a normal 4x4, you kind of take it on your head that you've got to try and win that for the team. On this occasion, it was the three of us have got to get Kriss into a position. That's our job. And if Kriss gets in that position, he will do his job. And it was kind of split that way, and it took the pressure off. I don't know how the rest of you felt, but that was kind of my take of the situation.
I think for me, it was strange, because in the 4x1, the team isn't quite as, or wasn't quite as strong as what I found in the 4x4, because in the 4x4, everybody trusted each other. We all knew what we're capable of, and our jobs were told, this is what we need to do. I remember you guys saying, John, all I want you to do is get the baton and make sure you are right up, the backside in real terms of Danny Everett. And to give Kriss a chance. I'll either give Kriss 10-meter lead or be right on him. And at one stage, I remember on the back straight, I thought Danny Everett was jogging, and I thought I could pull out and absolutely accelerate and go past it. But then I thought, well, I probably could get to 350, but the last 50, I think my legs would fall off. So just stick to what you know. Just follow Danny Everett. And I remember saying to you guys, if he ran into the stadium, I'd have run into the stadium, because I'd be following him. I'd just follow. If he ran up the stairs, I'd be following up the stairs and everything. And so for me, it was, there was actually no pressure. I felt really calm, really in control of what I was doing, because I saw Roger do his thing, and I thought, Roger's done exactly what he's going to say, what he said he could do. I saw Derek do his thing, did exactly what he said. And I thought, I'm the third piece of the jigsaw puzzle. And, similarly, when I race, I have like a jigsaw puzzle. For me to get a perfect picture, all the pieces have to fit together. And I was the third piece. And I thought, well, put your piece where it should go and leave it up to Kriss. And Kriss stumbled, fell, tripped, ran backwards, and somehow dipped at the line and got the gold medal with all the applause. So,
and of course, Pettigrew literally was jogging, because he thought, no way this old knacker's going to get
It's old Carl.
Jason, I think on a sort of serious, I think John makes a really important point, maybe to get across to you about the culture of a relay team. And it wasn't a coincidence. This didn't just happen. What happened in Tokyo 91 was a culmination of years and years and years of a culture that had been created before us. I think it really was created by Phil Brown, Todd Bennett, and Kriss, Gary Cook in '84, because things changed then, because they were running as friends. Yeah. And what you maybe don't know is that a tradition was formed whereby we would meet up socially as a group away from our individual training groups, and that was not necessarily encouraged by our coaches, particularly with me and Derek. When Derek and I came along, we were major competitors of each other.
Yeah.
But the relay, we learned that the relay was bigger than the individual, and that was just being together socially and respecting that the team was the team, and that manifested itself in 91. And John is the best person to talk about that, because John knows what it's like to be in a 4x1 relay team that didn't have that culture.
Yeah.
And then come into a 4x4 team that welcomed him and believed in him. And I know it sounds a bit airy-fairy, but these are the things that do make the difference when you run on the track. And we did not run on that track as four individuals who didn't have a connection. The Americans did, by the way. Yeah. We ran as four guys who respected each other, knew each other, and were friends. And I think that's what came across when we crossed the line. I think that's why it still lives. I don't think it lives just because we won. I think it lives because people felt a connection between the four of us that you don't always see in a relay team. I honestly believe that. And I think we sit here 30 years later, and these three were playing golf in Scotland a few days ago.
Yeah.
Okay, and I would enjoy them, but I was playing with them a month ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that isn't, isn't normal. And I think that's the legacy of 91.
one of the things that also came out of the 4x4 in 84, although it didn't really come to fruition until the Europeans in 86, one of the things that we started was the Sub 3 Club. And at that point, there was only 2 countries that ever fielded a team that could run under 3 minutes. I know things have changed now. That was United States and us. And I remember after we won the Europeans with Brian Whittle as a reserve, because Todd was injured, wasn't he? And I think Phil
was injured. I ran because Phil was injured.
That's right. And as you know, we ended up winning that, and Brian lost his shoe. Kriss stood on the back of his heel. Again, the rest is story. The rest of the story is history. Roger had already won the individual, brilliant leg on the last leg to bring us home. Was it Korochkin and I can't remember the other German, Edgar It or
Edgar It, yeah.
Was it Edgar It? Anyway.
Yeah, you're right, Edgar It.
After a few weeks after, I think at one of the get-togethers that Roger was talking about, we used to meet in Birmingham at the Post House Hotel. And we came up with this idea of forming the Sub 3 Club. And if you'd ran in a relay team that had run under 3 minutes, regardless of what race, whether it was in a championship, winning a gold medal, or just in a whatever competition, we will have these rings made. And it was made, and it had the word Sub 3 on it. And for me, that was one of the first, almost like our badge of honor. That was as important as winning a medal. And you became a member of the Sub 3 Club. And that kind of went on up until about 96 with you guys, Roger, in Athens.
No, it ended before that.
Oh, did it end before that? Okay.
I don't know. I don't know if Ewan and Jamie and Mark have a Sub 3 ring. Yeah, maybe they do. I don't know.
I got a feeling Mark has. I don't know. Anyway, but it kind of came and it kind of...
Mark may have got one from 91, you see. He may have ran Sub 3 in the heats, didn't he?
In the heats, yeah, we did. Yeah, we did. You're right. So he may have got, him and Addy may have got it from there. But the point being, that was almost the official start, even though it was, if you like, conceived by the guys from 84. By 86, we were this unit that Roger was talking about.
Absolutely.
And it was proud that we all had these Sub 3 rings, and that was the kind of the start of the bond between us.
So I take it that team management not only didn't have much to do with this, but some of the coaches actively frowned upon it.
Well, Frank did, yeah.
They didn't like rival 400-meter runners getting together and.
I know you're itching to say something.
Yeah,
Come on, Kriss. What did you used to call Frank?
I don't want to diss Frank, but no, I mean, to be fair to Frank, there was a way of running quarter mile, 400-meter relays, and Frank was very traditional, and there was no doubt that if we ran the traditional way, which was our best guy on the last leg, the second best guy on the first leg, and John and I in the middle, we would have got a medal. Yeah, we'd have got bronze, we'd have got silver, and
it simply wouldn't have worked if you'd had a different order.
No chance. No
worry about that.
No, absolutely no chance.
No, and then there is not a. I mean, we've. Well, yeah.
It wouldn't work. No. I mean, I remember Kriss. You said, well, all four of us in the room and discussing the order. And I remember when you guys were discussing, I was thinking, holy moly. Roger's on. I said, why is Roger? In my mind, I'm thinking, why is Roger on? Why putting Roger first? Because old tradition came to the fore. But then Kriss made the point. Well, normally the Americans are 10, 50 meters gone on the first leg, and the gold medal's down the street.
You're chasing
best guy on first leg, and then all of a sudden you thought, well, obviously that makes so much more sense because you've got to be in the game in order to have a chance of winning the game. If you're 4-0 down after the first 2 minutes, it's game over. Yeah. And I said, for me, it was such a refreshing atmosphere to be involved in. Guys, we're all individuals, but more than that, we were all friends coming together to do battle against everybody else. And because our close-knit friendship, that gave us even more impetus to when the man fired the gun, each of us knew exactly what we were doing and how to raise our game in order to achieve what we achieved. And for me, that will always remain as the best performance I ever did in track. the most fun I've ever had in track and field because it all came together.
I was also going to say that for me, being the last man, I can't believe how calm I was and how confident I was. And there was absolutely no doubt in my mind that we were going to deliver on our objective. And the only time I doubted was about 30 meters from the line when I went from, oh, look how good we are, to, oh my gosh, it's down to you. And that was the only time that I had a doubt, because having trained with Roger for so long, I absolutely knew number 2 in the world just got himself for silver. Roger, absolutely, there's nobody that was going to take Roger out in that first leg. Absolutely nobody. And when I saw that Bambi leg stride going down the back straight, it was just like, oh my gosh, Roger's doing it. He's doing it. And so, I got that sort of like reverberation energy just from watching him doing it. And then we're heading over to our second best athlete, the one and only, as long as he didn't pop his hamstring.
Hey guys, he's gone into automatic speech mode here.
Yeah.
I didn't want to
get your checkbooks out, boys.
I didn't want to fight off his dad. But Derek was just very, very smooth. And you just knew when Derek was on song because he was just this smooth gliding athlete. And so when he gets that stick and you see him blasting down the back straight, as smooth as you like, I know we're in shape. This is happening. And, they say, don't you, that strategy doesn't fail. Failure to implement the strategy is what fails. Mm-hmm. So when I'm seeing Roger and Derek implementing what we've talked about, again, I'm absolutely confident watching John take that stick. And
can I just add something? Can I just add one thing just before you get on to John? Because I think, we've all seen this race many, many times. And I really believe, if you could pinpoint one moment in the whole race where the race is won and lost, for me, it happened in the space of 10 seconds. It was won because when Derek ran the fastest lap out of all of us that day. I mean, take mine out of the equation because it's from a standing start, but it was phenomenal. But if you watch the race, as someone who knows nothing about athletics, you look at Derek's run and think, oh, he got absolutely spanked, okay? Because he ran against a guy called Quincy Watts, who the following year became the world champion. But Derek's instructions were very clear. There was no point me creating the lead and Derek then taking it easy. Derek had to commit and go to a place that maybe, he had never been to before because we had to go. If we're going to go from the front, we have to go from the front. There's no messing around, okay? So Derek and I had to go from the front. And I think the moment the race was won was actually when Quincy Watts decided to go past Derek.
Agree.
If Quincy Watts had just sat and jogged and handed over to Danny Everett, tucked behind John, who then handed over to Pettigrew, tucked behind Kriss, not sure we'd be sitting here tonight.
Okay. Yeah, do you know what? I 100% agree that Quincy Watts made a tactical error, and he, in my opinion, he kind of panicked because he wanted to put America back where they normally are.
Well, they had no strategy, Derek.
That's right.
Strategy was run as hard as you can.
Yeah, and get in front and just stay in front, and that was it. And I remember, Roger, you ran 44.6 or whatever it was. Great leg, puts us in the lead, which we talked about. And as Kriss says, implementing strategy. I got the baton, and I just remember thinking, the one thing I hate to see in relays is people wasting someone's effort in the last 50, 60 meters. And Roger had done it all for 340 meters. And then he digs in for that last 50, 60 meters, puts his hand out. First thing I've got to do is take that baton at arm's length. I'm not wasting any bit of Roger's energy. He's done. I'm fresh. Make sure you get a good changeover. And the second thing I had to do, which you see a lot of times in relays, as Roger says, people then just sit and just go out. I had no choice but to go out harder than I would normally do in the first 100 because of what Roger had already done. I was not going to waste Roger's effort and energy and what he'd done. And I had to go out hard and worry about the last 50, 60 when I get to the last 50 or 60. And, Quincy Watts went past me. Why? Because I was gassed. Mm-hmm. I had nothing left because I committed to the first, 300 and whatever. And he came past me. And I just remember thinking, you're not going to pull away from me. Hang on and give John a fighting chance. And I think to quote Kriss, when he was talking about where he wanted to batten, he said, either give me that batten at least 10 meters up or no more than 10 meters down or something like that.
3 meters.
3 meters down, sorry, no more than 3 meters down.
Is it?
And I just remember thinking, don't give that baton to John any more than 3 meters down. Because John was the only person we felt, and we will possibly come on to this, that on the legs that we all ran, because we all say no one could have done what anybody else done on any other leg.
No,
you could have switched us around. Nobody else would have performed to that ability. And John was the only person that if Danny Everett decided to turn on his 19 point whatever 200, no, 20.01 or something, he'd run 200. We couldn't have handled that. Now, John could have handled that speed, but again, Danny Everett being a 400-meter runner, if he was smart, could have taken it out and run the finish out of John. Yeah, but he wasn't thinking that way.
Yeah, but I don't even think they were thinking about John.
No, at all.
And you know, not wanting to contradict Roger, because that's new to me. For me, and I'm, you know, the most significant leg was John, and you know, because one of the things I like to say is 200 meters runners generally are quick, strong, fast, but not very bright. So it's John.
Well, it's goodbye from me.
But John contradicted all of that.
Yeah, he did.
Because normally you see a 200-meter runner or a person with leg speed,
take it out,
and they come around that first turn, they see straight, and they go the dash, and they just blaff it all the way down. And to see John come off that turn and tuck in and implement the strategy. And implement the strategy when the endorphins are flying, adrenaline is pumping, eyeballs are out, the crowd are baying, and to see him to have that presence of mind to remember what his role is, that very important role in the team, and to execute it 100% and hand it on the jockstrap 2 minutes behind. That for me was what won it and lost it for me. And you know. And again, you know, of course, I think it's about perspective. So I can only talk about Mark's perspective as I'm standing on the track, going to take the baton next. Roger and Derek have done everything that could be asked of them. And the only person that could mess up would be John. If he just got charged up.
Yeah. It's quite funny though, because I remember John telling me a story, and you should tell this better than me, where you did pull out and he went, "Oh no, fall back in again." I think
exactly that. If you watch, I mean, it's been shown on the video. There's one point there is for the 200-meter start, I pull out wide, and I think no, and I thought that was silly, and he just tucked back in.
It strikes me that John had the restraint that Quincy Watts didn't have.
Yes, it wasn't just the restraint; he had the discipline.
Yeah.
Because we had a strategy, because we had a plan, John had the discipline to do, and it wasn't just the physical discipline; it was also to have the trust and the belief that the plan was going to work. Yeah. Because at any given moment during any stride, he could have thought, "I'll sod this. This ain't right. I'm going for it," and he could have just made up a new plan there and then on the spur of a second. And we've all done it in races where we've gone into there with a plan, the way we're going to do it, and we've panicked because someone's gone off quicker, slower, whatever, and you've just gone. And he didn't. He actually stuck with it. So it was the discipline, it was the patience, it was everything about it. And he's running off 100% further than he's comfortable to run with that kind of confidence. Yeah. So I mean, I think there was a few spots that
but of course there are lots of spots to it, but
but it was the plan to go for gold. Remember, we said we're going for gold.
Yeah,
this wasn't about just getting silver or bronze, because to be honest, we thought we could have juggled this 4 team in any order, silver or bronze, but we wanted the big medal.
I tell you the other thing, and it's just I may have said this before, but I don't know. It's just come to me now. There are lots and lots and lots and lots of factors to happen that day. You look back now. You're loads of we could analyse.
You mentioned the intricacies of the plan, which
but there are other factors. The Americans could have run Michael Johnson, but they decided not to.
Yeah.
So there are lots of factors. But
when did you find out their team?
Well, you have a pretty good idea of their team because they you can predict their team because they go on the first 3 of the trials and then they just go like that. They've got that much time. But actually, that leads into my point. My point is, we'd all been around a while, particularly me, John, Chris, and Derek. And I correct me if I'm wrong, guys. I've only ever run in 2 races against the Americans when we had a real chance of winning, a realistic chance of winning. One was in 1991, obviously, and I think we recognised that this was a rare moment. This was very rare that we had 4 guys who were ready, 4 guys who were healthy. Yeah, think about that. When did Derek and I ever be healthy at the same time? We had 4 guys who were on top of their game, and we had an opportunity to win. And I think we recognised that. We didn't just take that for. We didn't think, oh, we got a chance here. We knew this wasn't going to happen very often. I had it again in 1996. And whatever. It's still the British record time. We won a silver in 1996. Me, you, and Jamie and Mark. But we had an opportunity to win, and we didn't win. We ran it faster, but we didn't win. That's okay. We didn't. But I remember that day knowing this is the chance to win, and they don't come around very often. It's never happened since '96. It ain't going to happen for a long time that a British 4x4 team is going to have a chance of winning. So my point is, I think the 4 of us knew this was a moment in time where we had a chance of winning, and we'd never had that before. And that I felt that. I felt that.
I also think that we're all going to have individual stories. So for me, what contributed to my own particular performance was my bad performance in the 400 hurdles.
Okay.
Now, it is interesting when you're an individual and a relay, the relay gives you a second bite at the cherry.
Yeah.
Now, I really thought I had a chance of being world champion and certainly coming second as a flat 400-meter hurdler. But for me, I did make the mistake. What you said, Derek, about reacting to somebody else's performance. When I came off the turn in the hurdles, I've hurdled late. Matete gone, but Winthrop Graham, he was gettable. So rather than stay in my rhythm, I tried to get him, hit the hurdle, and I was lucky to hold on to the third. Anyway, that meant that this relay was my chance with these fellas to get that big G. It really was my chance. And sometimes when you do, like I train with Roger all the time, and sometimes when you're in training and you do this sort of concertina, sort of you're leading, I'm leading, there are times when no matter how good Roger is, I'm there and I can cover him, And I know I've got it in me. And I think that I transposed my disappointment in the flat, in the 400 hurdles to this moment. I didn't care. Now, forgive what I'm going to say here because it is obviously stupidity. I don't care if Michael Johnson had been on that last leg. There was just something in the atmosphere. I've got this. And, it was like a redemption and I've got this. And when I saw, this is like when you believe in fairy stories and woo mentality and all of that stuff. When I saw it all happening, Roger leading, Derek, jockstrap, John listening and delivering, honestly, it was just like, we've got, okay, great, redemption, we're going to win this. Because there was no thought in my mind. I wasn't scared. I wasn't worried. It was fairy stories. All happens happily ever after. I get that stick. I'm running after Pettigrew. And it just didn't even enter my mind that a fairy story wasn't going to have a wonderful ending. Until, as I said, the last 20 meters. And so, that's my own individual story, which I've not really talked about, but I've really known. If I'd won as an individual, I might have had a little more chink. I might have not even suggested to Roger and the lads and the boys, I can do this. Yeah. So I don't know what your individual story, but I recognise the serendipitousness of failure bringing success.
And I can concur with that because I'd had a bad individual, and my my journey to that final was I got knocked out in the semi-final of the individual. Still fighting to sort of get back into shape. I hadn't had that many races. If I remember rightly, my first race of the year was the trials. Managed to get through. Luckily won them in a pretty slow time. That got me into the team, and I was kind of chasing form, and I got knocked out. No matter how I ran, I remember I couldn't run much quicker than 45.4, 45.5, and whether I walked the first 200 or took a taxi, I'd always end up with 45.5. Couldn't do anything. And I remember after the semi-final, the individual, talking to Tony, my coach, and Frank, and saying, you know what, maybe I should pull out of the relay because I'm not in shape. And Frank said, don't be hasty. Let's run the heats. You've got a few days to get some training in. Run the heats. We'll see how things go from there. And actually, I ran totally different I say totally different, a lot quicker in the heats. Form, even when you take into consideration rolling start, it still would have been my quickest time of the year. So I knew races is what I needed. And I was really confident once I was picked in the, for the final, that I could deliver. And like Kriss, there was a bit of redemption to be had. So for me, it was that second bite of the cherry. I'm going to at least try and make up in some way of what didn't happen in the individual. You've got Roger coming in from another angle, from winning a silver individual, and John
losing a gold,
losing a gold, exactly. And then John, again, you had your own story in the in your individual, didn't you?
For me, the 200 meters, I got knocked out in the semi-final, and I literally felt like a failure. And then I go into the 4x1, and the 4x1, the chemistry, let's say, was nowhere near as comfortable as it is in the 4x4. So we get, I think we get bronze there. And again, it was, it felt okay, you got a medal, but nothing felt, I didn't feel as though I would be selected in the first place. And I remember going to Kriss, say, Kriss, man, I just got back in the semi-final, and I don't think it's going to have to go. Kriss says, shut up.
Yes!
Yeah. You're going to do it. And I was like, okay. And he said that. I mean, in a way, I went from Nowheresville to stand on top of the mountain. And I thought, whatever these guys say, I am going to do. And I'm going to give them whatever they want, I'm going to give it to them, because all of a sudden I just felt the euphoria of belief from three guys, Kriss in particular, because he was just very honest. Because he just, as I said, in one word, that just kind of like transformed the way that I was thinking. I thought, of course I can do this. And I was a different person, completely different person.
That's that belief we had in each other. That's that belief we had in each other.
Yeah, there's we've never been here before, and there's a lot in here. This redemption and failure and what Derek has just said. Being in a group of people where they believe in you, where they believe in you, where they think you're the right, in this case, man for the job, and it's because I was with these fellas, and we had this moment. I mean, it's quite touching now to really realise that actually it was the power we call synergy. These are all sort of working for, but the power of that synergy, the work of us together, believing and trusting each other and giving each other permission to go out and run our best race. It's absolutely phenomenal. You know, when you think of where we come from with all these, I didn't realise a collective.
Yeah. Roger was the talented one at the championships. He came away with a silver medal, and then we all tried. I mean, you got a medal as well, Kriss. Me and Derek tried. We got knocked out in the semi, so we were carrying luggage back, and you guys came and just gave us the strength to throw the luggage on the floor and say, "We believe in you." And as Roger said right from the beginning, we are friends. We were friends first anyway, and this just adds to the whole performance, because we trust each other. We trusted each other's performance because we knew, and I think, to be honest, I think if either thought that we weren't fit for the job, we would have stepped off the ship. Yeah. No, we're not ready for this.
There was a real eerie feeling when we were in the tunnel before we came out onto the track.
Yeah, there was.
We tried to keep, there's a whole eerie feeling once we had decided we were going to change the order.
Why?
just because we knew this could and was going to work. And I remember being in the tunnel, and we've laughed and joked about this on a couple of occasions, where we're in the tunnel and you get that moment just before they let you out on the track. We're a team, but we're all getting our heads together in our own way. So you're kind of walking around in circles and just, we're all spikes on, ready to go. And I remember just looking up, and I'd catch Rogers, because we'd kept the order of sequence. They knew now Rogers running the first leg because his blocks were possibly out, or it was just before we went and put the blocks out. I can't remember. So there was a point when people didn't know. And I remember just catching Rogers' eye, and it was almost we gave each other a bit of a...
Yeah, he was.
Because we knew
we
had this little thing that nobody else had. And then, it was just a really weird thing. And then, I'd catch John. We were like... we just knew we had this little something that nobody else had. And as I say, we didn't... I'm kind of exaggerating with the actions and stuff. But there was something, when we looked at each other, we just sort of went...
Yeah.
And we knew we had something. It was almost like, what was the guy in 1992? Kriss, what's his name, from Liverpool, who had the weird bike?
Boardman.
No, not Brew. Chris Boardman. And he had that bike that nobody else had. And because nobody else had it, it was kept under covers. He knew this bike was going to break the world record in the pursuit race, because we had the equivalent of that. There was something we had. This new design that nobody had tried and tested before, and we knew it was going to work.
And and a huge part of that, Jason, is we weren't 4 young kids who had just started out in our career. So we were 4 experienced athletes who had experienced success and had experienced disappointment. All of us had.
Yeah.
So this wasn't 4 rookies that had been chucked together. Which you look at the American team. Quincy Watts was a rookie.
Yeah.
And look what he did the following year, so that's a really important point, because, they talk about the value of experience in sport, but, that was really important. By the way, I think that also magnified the impact that the us winning the race and the attention and publicity we have had ever since, because people knew us when they were watching it on telly. They didn't watch it and go, oh, who's it? Oh, this is some young kid who's come out there. They knew us 4. They knew who we all were.
Yeah.
So when people were watching, they were watching people they knew and they connected with. And all these little things, when you put it into the pot, explains why we're sitting here 30 years later.
Like a perfect storm of
remember this race
and stuff. Yeah.
Sorry?
What did the Americans say after the race? Did you guys talk to the Americans at all?
We kicked your butts. That was B-boy. We kicked their butts.
I do remember Chris giving a bit of a ribbing when we were standing behind the rostrum, and we were like, leave it, because we thought it's going to kick off on the rostrum. We've just won gold, and we're going to be the first team to have to defend ourselves because the Americans were going to have a go at us. But yeah,
I tell you, and we haven't really spoken to them in depth. And and Pettigrew, God rest his soul, isn't around to defend himself. And I got on pretty well with Valmont and Pettigrew, if I'm honest, on the circuit. I sensed from them all that, and this is going to sound really stupid, okay, but if they were going to get beaten, I think that we've been around. We've been on the circuit. They knew us. They knew me and Derek. We raced them day in, day out. They knew Kriss and John. We weren't. They knew us. They liked us. They knew us. There was no animosity there at all. They didn't like losing, but I reckon if they were going to lose, it's better to lose to us than it is. Does that sound really silly?
Yeah, no. I tell you what, no.
I didn't get anything back from them. We milked it. We went a little bit too far as well because it was a one-off. But I didn't get anything back from them. Even their coaches, you remember Johnson, those guys, they were all quite, we knew the guys, I didn't feel anything bad from them. Did you? I don't.
Yeah, I did. I didn't.
Well, you were outrageous.
Yeah.
So Pettigrew was great.
I didn't.
He was just shaking his head, man, and I don't think he could. He just
didn't comprehend it.
Yeah, did that really happen? But Andrew Valmont,
did he?
Oh,
I didn't.
His face. If he could have ripped my guts out, if he could have snapped my. Andrew did not look. He did not look. And I didn't really know. Obviously, I know Andrew Valmont, like you said. I've been on many.
But that's the point, isn't it? You know, he raced me and Derek as 400-meter runners, and he looked at a 200-meter runner and a knackered old hurdler.
Yes.
And that hurt.
Yes.
So maybe the truth is, my perception of it was different to yours, because they probably had a respect for me and Derek. They said, okay, guys, you know. But yeah, now you say it, Kriss. God, it must have hurt to be beaten by a knackered old hurdler and a 200-meter runner. My God, that must have really hurt.
Especially when he's laughing in your face.
Well, no, because if you guys remember, Pettigrew got. I remember the interview afterwards. He got absolutely blasted by the press, saying that the world champion, gets beaten by a cart horse. I mean, he absolutely got bashed by the press, and because I think the reason why he got bashed was one of the main reasons, should I say, was because his anchor leg wasn't sub 45. No. I mean, he showed disrespect to Kriss by jogging.
He did.
To out kick Kriss, which shows they didn't have a plan. Because if anybody would know Kriss, I mean, for me, the way to beat Kriss, you take him out. Take
him out.
Yeah. And Pettigrew thought that he's the world champion. He's going to show off in the home straight. But
I think the other thing that team had to deal with is they were the first 4x4 team to be beaten at Olympic and world level for the best part of 50 years, over 50 years.
Yeah.
That had to hurt.
Yeah, of course.
If it was, I've never done this, but I guess it's a bit like being the first person knocked out on, I don't know, Strictly Come Dancing or whatever. You don't want to be the first one. You might not win, but the shame of that walk of shame of the first one, they were the first, and they had to deal with that.
And
as a result of that was difficult.
And maybe you guys can, and maybe Jason, you can correct me on this, but two things happened after that race. One was people looked at, you choose the running order depending on what's in front of you, not because of how it's always been done. And it seems so obvious now, and we talk about it. And I don't know about you guys, but whenever I talk about it, I do think, we are hamming this up a little bit, because it's so logical what we did. It's not like Dick Frosby changed completely, jumping over backwards. It was like, now you go, well, of course. It's one of those moments where it's like, well, yeah, of course.
Yeah, but no one did it, Roger. People might have thought about it.
First to do it.
But nobody.
Maybe the second thing that happened, and I don't know if this is true, but I don't remember the Americans then, subsequently to that, just sticking with the four that have come first four in the trials again. I think now you see hurdlers in the race. You see, Johnson in the race. Remember, I did mention it. Michael Johnson, I think John won the 200 meters in 91.
Yeah.
Okay. He could have been selected for that, and he wanted to run.
Yes.
And they said to him, "We don't need you."
Yeah. And he went home.
And I don't think they would. And I think it changed the way they selected the relay teams, because they, as Kriss said, we still may have won, but they never took that. So we didn't just change what there's the way you select your team. We also changed the way a nation of America allowed other people to run, which they wouldn't have done.
Say that, Roger, because after that it was called the Michael Johnson rule. Whereas as long as you compete in the national championships, compete in the national championships, you can then be selected for a relay. So you don't actually have to compete in the 400.
Okay.
And so they called it the Michael Johnson rule. Yeah.
Because I've got to be. If Michael Johnson had been on the last leg, I'd have been toast. He would have won. He would have won 20.
Kriss,
he won 20.5. My hamstrings have been singing at 180. I'd have got, sorry, fellas.
You would have been, how far's the Jamaican behind us? I'm going to scramble for silver.
Exactly.
But the thing is, if that had happened, people would have expected us to get the silver.
Yeah.
So, one of the things I remember when we were talking with Frank about changing the order, and he was a little bit unsure, and Frank saying, "I'm trying to protect the silver guys."
Yeah.
And our response was, "Well, we're trying to win the gold."
Big G, yeah. But the big G boys, the big G boys.
And if it goes wrong, we'll pick up that silver.
Yeah.
Because if you look at how far Jamaica were behind us,
Mars, man.
So had we got it wrong, we would
still
have
got
had a silver medal anyway, which was expected by everybody for us to win. So I
Yeah.
think one of the nice things, again, going into that race, and it kind of adds to it's part of the ingredients to this whole feeling, this aura that was going around, is we couldn't lose, because we could lose the race and win the silver, which everybody expected us to win, or we would win the race and win the gold medal.
But you know what, Derek? Don't say that often, because it does make it. It does sort of make it.
No, and also the fact is we don't know. The fact is,
sorry,
we don't know.
Four of us, we know that's true, but it's not a very good story.
Can you cut that bit, Jason? Cut
that bit, Jason.
Yeah, cut that bit, Jason.
You guys mentioned earlier on the kind of micro bits of the plan. Were there any bits in the race that didn't go to plan? You know, the odd changeover. You know, certain parts where you're shaking your heads.
Not for us, but
just tiny bits where you maybe thought, oh, this is not going.
I don't think for the four of us anything didn't happen, but I think there are, as we've said already, there were moments where the Americans did things or didn't do things that, if they had done, might have changed the race. Yeah. And Kriss hasn't mentioned it yet, but correct me if I'm wrong, Kriss. You know, a big moment in that race is that a photographer was on the inside lane when Kriss and Pettigrew were running around the first bend. Is that right?
I don't know, mate.
Really? Because I thought Pettigrew moaned about a photographer stepping. I think if you watch the race, am I mixing my race?
No, maybe. But me, at that stage, I was in La La Land. Yeah. Because I was like, oh my gosh, we're going to win this. You know, and I know I've got 350 to go, but it was just, and also he was jogging. It was like, it's like, come on, son, let's get this race on then. So I wasn't thinking about any but him, and let's get running. Yeah. So I'm not denying what you said. I just wasn't aware.
No.
That if we don't start running in a minute, they're going to catch us up.
I think one of the things that could have happened with things that happened in the race, talking about John's leg, Quincy Watts going past me, Pettigrew not going off as hard as he did. We could have had problems with the changeover. One of the biggest things for us, and we're going back over some stuff, was the discipline that we had with things, because we didn't know exactly what was going to happen in that race. We had an idea of what we wanted to do, and we could control what we were going to do, but we couldn't control what anybody else was going to do. And whether it be Danny Everett being there for the taking, and John having a discipline to not go past him, for Kriss not to take on Pettigrew any earlier. Again, I mean, he was in a very similar situation to how John was, where he could have said, you know what, I'm taking this out from 200 to go. And he didn't. He waited for his moment. He left it quite close, quite right. When for me, it was that moment when Quincy went past me, not to panic and tense up and just relax and just say, I'm not letting him get any more than 3 meters in front. So we all did things in that race. I mean, Roger hasn't given himself
mine was the easiest lap, Derek.
It was, but you've also got to remember, on the first leg, as we all know, and we are talking a world championship here, on that first leg, the stagger's way bigger than it is in a normal 400 race. And I know we've done it before, but you still did
what I know is mine was in that respect, mine was the easiest lap. But I think, as we all know, it was singly, the lap that won us the gold medal. Because if I hadn't done it, no chance. Derek is right. And you asked the question. I honestly think that we all did what we did. And you're right. I mean, there's so much here, and there's a lot of self-congratulation between all of us. And you're right. John's lap, you could analyse. And you're right, Kriss. It was amazing. But just to say something nice about Kriss, okay? Because we all joke about, he is the one who, all the glory on the last lap. I mean, I get my biggest laugh when I'm doing a speech about, me putting my ego to one side, and because if you run first, you don't get your picture in the paper. Kriss got a disproportionate amount of go, because of course you did. He's the guy with the photo crossing the line, right? Absolutely.
Glory leg.
But I'll tell you this, and this is something that only relay runners in the world would ever understand, and might be of interest to you, Jason. You watch that race again after you've done this interview, and you watch what happens when Kriss goes past Pettigrew. Because Kriss described to you earlier that was the moment Kriss started to doubt. And there's only about 5, 6, 7, 10 meters left And if you watch it, Pettigrew was coming back at Kriss. Now, that should never happen in the end of a 400-meter race. No one should ever come past you and you be able to come back at them. The reason he was able to come back at him is twofold. One, Pettigrew, he didn't run out, he didn't go for it. But Kriss used 15 years of running relays. No one had run as many relays as Kriss over the years. And I honestly believe that if Kriss had gone 2 meters earlier or 2 meters later, we wouldn't have won the gold medal. I think it is that fine. And I know that because I know what it's like. We all do it on the last leg and you go or when you don't go. But I will never know. But that was 15 years of knowing exactly when to go. Because if he had gone earlier, Pettigrew clearly would have come back and caught him. Yeah. If that race was 401 meters, we're coming second. So you have to give him the credit. Yeah. That was amazing to know exactly when to go. And we must never assume that anyone else would have or could have done that, because you've got to decide when to go. And, we are so fortunate that he decided to go at the right time. Because if he'd gone earlier or later, I just, who knows? But I'm not sure we would have.
Well, certainly if I'd gone earlier, he would have come for me. Because, obviously it's psychology as well, because
maybe later.
I switched my mind from what we were doing, us four, to what I'm doing. And that's there was so much confidence in what we were doing and seeing us doing it. And I only got complicated the moment that I thought that I'd got to do it. Because even when I went, it was us doing it. It wasn't me doing it. We were going past the Americans. And then it switched. And then all of a sudden I realized what I was doing. And what I was doing was getting caught by the Americans.
Was that kind of detail in the plan as well before the race, or at that stage is it impossible to predict what's exactly going to happen, and you're just using your judgment at the time?
I think it's well, of course it's impossible to predict exactly what's going to happen. We had a very good idea what was going to happen. We had an excellent idea of what we were going to do, but we didn't know whether the Jamaicans were going to go out super quick and completely spoil the party. There's so many different things that could have happened in that race. It kind of went to plan, but we all had to have that ability to not panic and do what we said we were going to do, trust in our own abilities, trust in the overall plan, and trust in each other for it to work. And that's a lot to contend with when you're just 24 hours before the race, you've gone, guys, we're going to switch it up. We're going to try this. Most people would rather go, well, let's work on that in training. We didn't. We just knew that this was the right thing to do. So there was only so much that we could predict. And there was a lot of that was also down to, as Roger said, the experience of everybody in their own right. Kriss, yes, had 6 years more experience than all of us. We all had our own experiences in our own way. And we use that to the best of our abilities. And the judgments we all had to make at the time live was down to the experience, the confidence, and also sticking to the plan, because we all had to make choices in that race. And
honestly, I was oblivious to any intricacies or anything going wrong. Just all I saw was poetry, emotion, and it was just an amazing experience to be in the zeitgeist, the spirit of that time, and to see it happening. It was just, because I had the privilege of being the last guy and seeing Roger in his blocks and seeing Derek getting ready by the side and seeing John in his own little world trying to get himself ready for one of the most important races of his life. And then all of a sudden, Roger's off and Derek's there and John's getting ready, and Roger's looking beautiful. Oh, I shouldn't say that, but he's looking good. and then Derek's off and John's there. And Derek's executing and he's smooth. And then John gets a baton and he runs like a 400-meter runner and not like a 200 guy. He loses his head. It was just, and I just got lost in that, in the I just got lost in the poetry of that moment.
Were there many British fans in the stadium that night? So was there a bit of a contingent, or was it, or not really? With it being on the
There
other
was
side
a
of the
bit
world?
of a contingent because I remember we went over and got some flags. They threw some flags over, not massive, but there was a contingent.
Yeah. I think there was quite a few, but to be honest, when you're in that moment, I literally could hear a pin drop because I was so much in the zone. All I could see, I saw Roger do his thing. I thought, okay, that's one down. Roger's done his thing. Then Derek did his thing. I'm like, okay, it's my turn. And while I'm running, literally, it's quiet. It's completely quiet. I'm calm. I'm in control. I know exactly where I am. I can hear myself breathing. I can hear his footsteps in front of me. I can see, I am in this. I cannot hear a thing. And as soon as I hand the baton over to Kriss, and then Kriss takes the baton and runs, the crowd all of a sudden, I'm in a championship. I can hear the crowd. Oh, there they are. And it's just an amazing thing for while you're doing what you're doing. It is, to me, completely silent. I cannot hear a thing.
Interesting. You asked Jason if there was a big British contingent. One of the things that I don't know if you guys recognize this after the race. Regardless of the amount of Brits that were in the race, there was two lots of fans. There was the Americans who wanted the Americans to win, and there was the rest of the world that America wanted to see America beaten. That was basically it. So every other fan in that stadium that was not American may as well have been British.
Yeah.
Because they all, for some reason, wanted to see the Americans beaten. And we got as much congratulations from people from other countries and other nations as we did from Brits. I don't know if you guys remember that.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. I always say the fans are going wild, the teams are going wild, photographers are going wild, everyone's going wild, just 4 individual Americans. It was just like an incredible moment.